Good morning, family. And on this Food for Thought Friday, I want to begin simply by saying that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, give you all that you've got. Please be intentional about how you're spending your time and with whom you're spending your time. And just go ahead and fill your weekend with what feeds your soul. Now, personally, some of my simple soul food is just reading inspirational material. And I was reading earlier this week, and I happened to come across something that Zig Ziglar said years ago that's probably familiar to many of you. And it's about how it is our attitude more than our aptitude that determines our altitude. And my wheels got to turning, and one thought led to another. And I thought about how nicely this word altitude fits right on in with my 2020 theme, Year of Ascension. So if ascension is the overall goal, then reaching a higher altitude could be a sort of sub-goal. But really, none of this is new to us. This idea that within us lies all that we need to be higher, better versions of ourselves, to rise to new levels. It's not a new idea. We have always been commissioned to do that, family. And it's nothing like a new decade to remind us to get back to the business of just being who we were created to be. But when we talk about altitude, I'm curious, where do your thoughts take you? This concept that we can move upward from where we are now. And what will you allow to determine how high you can rise above everything that tries to keep you down? Do you have a picture in your mind? Will you allow yourself to envision a climb that will lead you to a higher altitude? Now, I promise I'm going to return to the mental picture in a moment, but bear with me because I did a little research for us and learned that in the physical sense of climbing to a higher altitude, there are some changes actually taking place in our bodies, right? Because the oxygen molecules are further apart at higher altitudes, we try to breathe more to make up for decreased oxygen. Also, our water loss increases, putting us at risk for dehydration, and there may be changes in our metabolism even that can impact our appetite. But then guess what happens? Can you say adaptations? Now, I'm simplifying the science, but not only does the body have adaptations that allow it to partially compensate for the lack of oxygen, but how about after exposure to oxygen-deprived conditions of high altitudes? Our red blood cells, our muscles, organs can actually benefit from the new way that our bodies take in the oxygen. So why am I even taking the time to talk about all of this? Talk about what happens in our bodies at higher altitudes. I'm talking about it because of how we're wired. Because I understand that when we can picture ourselves in a certain state, our imaginations expand, setting the stage for action. Again, do you imagine yourself climbing? Because if you can, you'll be more inclined to do so. Come on, somebody. Is the view worth the climb? You might have to stop now and then and take in a few extra breaths, but is it worth it for you? It might take a different hunger and a thirst, dare I say, for life, but to reach a higher altitude, is it worth it? Listen, you may not understand why you're feeling some of what you're feeling while you're in the midst of the climb. But when it's all said and done, the changes, the adaptations that our hearts and minds undergo can yield benefits that we never dreamed of. Yes, it may be hard. It may be even a little treacherous at times. And yes, there is a possibility of falling. But get right back up and operate in the confidence that it is within the limitless power of your imagination to make the view worth it all. Make it worth it. At a higher altitude, we're able to see things from a different vantage point. Please make it worth it. And yes, at a higher altitude, even our thinking is elevated. This has been your Food for Thought Friday moment with Hadia. And I'm encouraging you to go ahead and make it worth it, to climb the distance that your ascension requires. Until next time, praying for you.